What have you learned?
What have I learned? One or two things.
Good.
One would be this might be trite, but for me it's like with genuine practice things improve. And that
Absolutely.
I essen-
That's a very good thing to
and
observe. You know, you can improve your life whenever you want.
yeah, but it's not so easy as well. Like it's genuine practice. By genuine practice I have to move toward my fear. I can't run away from it as such. Or I
Yeah,
can't just practice easy things and expect things will improve.
correct. So moving towards your fear is the way to conquer your fear. Almost always.
Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah.
And do you know how that
Yeah,
works?
uh I guess I think my mind gets conditioned that it's not there's no point fearing fear itself because it still
Correct, correct.
survived.
But in addition to that, you're updating your mental models. In the free energy principle, basically you're making inferences about the world, and then you check the world to see if they fit, right? And when they
Yes.
don't fit, then you adjust your inferences, and maybe you'll probe the world a little bit to see how things are. It's really quite extraordinary. It's going to be the new psychology of this century, the free energy principle. But in any case, in this case, you're not so much adjusting the world or studying the world, you're studying your own mind. And by learning about your own mind, then you master your own mind. And it's the most important thing to learn about and to master is your own mind because all of your suffering comes from your mind. Joy comes from someplace else. Happiness comes from the mind. but but by updating your mental models, you make yourself happier, healthier, wiser, and more capable. Good. So that's one. That's a good thing to learn.
Yeah, I essentially learned that by I had to talk to a lot of people today because I've had to present whatever we are working on.
Oh, good. You
And
did the presentation.
yeah, not necessarily a presentation. It was kind of a exhibition kind of thing where every team were presenting what they are working on to others pretty close by.
Good.
And I got to know about it yesterday. So it was like I wasn't prepared at all yet. And initial few attempts were bad, but I learned from my tech lead about how he's getting things done, how he's explaining things, especially how clearly. So I improved and eventually I almost perfected it. So that helped a lot.
Excellent. Excellent. That's what life is. Learning, experiencing, learning some more, right?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Another thing, but yeah, I think I can talk about that later. But another thing that I learned, I don't know whether I learned it as such. So I was looking more into, I think, special relativity,
Oh, good.
especially like, especially what happens when things move near speed of light, and with all the, how should I say, the Lorentz factor and all about how there is time dilation
Mm-hmm.
and like length decreases.
Right.
Essentially, what I arrived at was
As
if a
time
light,
increases, space decreases, or is it the other way around?
I think that by time increasing, I would say if it took 1 second for a clock to move, that same 1 second on when it will be like millions of years with respect to a photon moving near speed of light
There you go.
or some
Good.
elementary particle.
Excellent. So now,
Essentially,
now apply that to
yes.
biology and psychology. especially biology. And you can see that we're living in a very peculiar world that's just a little bitty sliver of reality because of our the way we observe time. Our clock time as large mammals is different than other clock times, galactic or small mammals or insects. You see? Excellent. Excellent.
But in case of light, as far as I know, like if a light originated from Andromeda, right, which is like billions of kilometers away from Earth,
Light years, yeah.
even though even though it would have
You know what a
taken
light
light
year is,
years,
right?
millions,
Explain to people
like
what a light year is.
a light year is essentially the distance traveled by a light for a year.
In a year. And how fast does light travel?
That's the fastest thing, and it's 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second.
So put that in miles an hour,
Uh,
roughly.
yeah, I have to check. Uh, in miles per second, it's almost hmm, 186,000
1,000
miles
miles
per second.
per second, right?
Yeah, yeah,
186,000 miles
that's.
per second. And it takes it how many light years to get here?
I think millions of years. I would say
Millions.
millions
Okay,
of
so
light
you can
years.
see how without expanding our minds, we're never going to be able to grok, to understand, to comprehend, or to relate to the galactic timescales, nor the timescales of small particles or small insects
But
or bacteria.
but but that's the interesting thing. When things move at speed of light, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the perspective of photons, no time has passed. And
Correct.
there is literally no distance between Earth and Andromeda galaxy.
Correct.
It's
There's no
as if
distance.
everything's one.
It's not as if everything's one. Everything is one. Space is a creation of the mind. Space is the way that we organize the data, the sense data that we have. But space is not foundational at all, as you've noticed. Just from special relativity, you don't even need quantum mechanics, right? So space, and now we understand the same for time, are both emergent from minds. They are not fundamental features of our universe, believe it or not. I posted a YouTube. I don't usually post YouTubes, but this one was so great. It's Chris Fields and some guy from one of these solving the mind-body problem, channels, one of those things. And it really is excellent. It may be difficult, parts of it, but if you could go through it, it would be really, really useful to you to start orienting yourself to a more contemporary way of looking at physics and at philosophy too. So and just he also discusses things like proto-panpsychism and panpsychism and the different flavors of panpsychism and the limits of realism and the limits of idealism in its strict form for scientifically oriented minds. It's wonderful. And he points out that even if this world is illusory, from his point of view, there has to be something that implements it. There must be something behind all this that we can't see, right? And he suggests that we describe it in terms of spins or in terms of qubits, that we use computer language or the language of qubits to describe what's behind reality. It's as good as anything else, and but once again, we have no idea from a scientific point of view of what's behind the illusion. So I recommend that to you. I posted it last night, I think, or maybe early this morning. Okay, so good. So just special relativity got you there. Einstein's work from more than 100 years ago.
Yeah. It's yet, like, I kind of understand that doesn't exist space as such, because at the end of the day, I'm just sensing senses, and those don't
No, no,
talk
no.
about space
Space
as
does
such.
exist, but only in your mind. Only as something that you
Yeah, it's
created in
on
your
top.
mind.
Yeah, that's what like. I was thinking, like, it's a thought on top of my senses.
There you
That
go.
saying that
Good.
there exists a thought,
It's
there
extra.
exists a space. Yeah.
Space is extra, and
So
then
I,
time is extra. It's hard at first
I,
to wrap your mind around it.
it's, to be honest, scary to me at least,
Why
and
scary?
yeah. There have been. I was thinking something weird, like after you awaken, do you still have memory and thoughts?
Yeah.
It's just that you are not entangled with those
There is
thoughts,
no
right?
consciousness without memory. Well, there
Okay.
is consciousness. There can be consciousness, but it's not like any other consciousness because it's not recorded. So you have no memory.
And you can't even, yeah, you can't even talk about it. Yeah, because you don't have memory of it.
Correct.
It, it. So for me, it was weird, like, because I think I remember when even you or someone talk about life and death, you say that time as such doesn't exist. So I start thinking that
Well, it
everything
doesn't
will
exist in the
cease.
way that we think it does. I mean, does a rainbow exist? Yes.
Oh, hmm. It's like asking whether cloud exists or not.
Well, cloud's a little bit
From
different.
faraway place, it does.
A cloud's a little bit different, I think.
Yeah, but when you go pretty close or near it, you realize it's just water droplets. It's nothing.
Well, water
When
droplets are
far away you
something,
have.
right? Water droplets are something. Do you know how much a cloud weighs? Ask your computer how much a cloud weighs.
Uh, it's almost 1.1 million pounds. For
1.1 million
typical.
pounds, say, for an average cloud. That's something,
Yeah.
right? That's different than air, but air is something too.
Mm.
So, but a rainbow's
Actually, a
different.
rainbow then.
How much does a rainbow weigh?
Rainbow doesn't weigh as such. It's just a reflection of light. Unless I can weigh photons.
It's a form of thought, sensory thought.
Is it a thought though? You
Well,
can still
well,
see.
okay. So let me tell you what was revealed to me is that your thoughts are as real as those birds, or those birds are as real as your thoughts. They're both equally real, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yes, that's definitely correct.
Okay,
The
good,
senses
good,
and the
good, good,
thoughts
good,
both
good.
are real. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I thought so. If they don't have
Which
any
is more
memory or
real, a
thought,
bird or a thought?
isn't when we speak about bird, isn't that a thought?
Yes, but let's say you see a bird.
Both of them. It's like I'm sensing things, and one sense is the visual one, and the another one is the thought part. So both are real.
Both are
What's happening
real
at
in
that
that
time?
sense, right?
Yes.
But they're also empty in the Buddhist sense. In two ways. In one way, they don't exist inherently. The bird is made up of all these different parts, and none of those parts is particularly a bird, but when you put them together in a certain way, they are a bird. I probably shouldn't have used a living creature, but so there's nothing that exists inherently as itself. Everything in the universe is made up of the other parts of the universe. Got that? It's called interdependent origination. That's called interdependent origination. Everything exists interdependently. Nothing exists except for consciousness on its own. God. Only God exists on her own. Everything else is made up of parts of something else. Go ahead.
I get that, yet I still feel there is some difference, and I feel like there is some settled thought that's
good. So let's talk about that. Now, I just gave you the ancient Buddhist interdependent origination basis for idealism or emptiness, right? Now, we have other reasons to believe that it's true now because our science has advanced. So now we can prove it scientifically. So let's hear what you were thinking.
I was thinking I still am separate from others in the sense that I do control my hands and all.
When you say you are separate from others, who is you?
The one that's behind my eyes. At least that's what I perceive.
Okay. If a steering wheel to a car turns the front wheels of the car, is it separate from the car?
Not necessarily because it controls it, at least influences it.
Without the car, there is no steering wheel. You need the car to hold the shaft and hold the wheel and connect the axle, right?
Yes.
So now you're saying you're separate from the rest of the universe. And then when I ask you who you are, you say it's something behind your eyes. What's behind your eyes? I can tell you what. Here's a model of what's behind your eyes. Where in here are you located? Or are you the hair? Pardon me? Where are you located?
I would say I am.
Are you in the frontal cortex that does that correlates with the thinking? Are you in the amygdala that takes care of the feelings? Are you in the occipital cortex that does the seeing? Or are you in the brainstem that keeps you awake and puts you to sleep? Are you in the temporal lobes that do the speaking or the auditory lobes that do the hearing? Are you the parietal lobe with its homunculus that moves your body? Which part is you? Which part could we not take out and you would still... I could take all of that out and you'd still be here, right?
Yeah. Or at least there will be a sense of me always, even if some parts of it get taken out.
Unless we wipe your memory or knock you unconscious. But even then, there's still life until you're dead, right? So when I say, who are you, what are you, you can't just say, oh, something behind my eyes. What if you were blind? Where would you be?
I was curious about that as well. Like, what do people who are born blind, where do they think things are? Is it different than right behind their eyes? Do they feel that they are at the center?
So you're taking a very unscientific view of what you are. What if I said your consciousness was here in your chest where your heart is and your eyes just happen to be up here?
That could be possible. Like, I was thinking
But what would be the you? Even then, what would be the you? We have to get this settled first. Because you're saying you're separate from the universe. There's nothing else in the universe that's like that. Nothing in the universe that's like that. Name something that exists independent of the universe. Anything. Anything you want. Besides perhaps thoughts. But even those are linked. But go ahead.
Awareness.
Okay, awareness or consciousness. Okay, what else?
Nothing else.
Okay.
Everything influences other.
Now you're saying that you are what? Are you a body? Are you a leg and an arm?
I'm not necessarily a leg and an arm. I I was thinking bit, and it could have been like there are certain cells in my body that doesn't change throughout the lifetime at all.
Name those
And
cells.
if
Name those
those,
cells. There aren't any. I'm telling you, you're talking to a biologist, a doctor, a physician.
yeah, I know. I don't know, and maybe I don't know, and
I don't either. I've never
only
heard of
when I
anything
die.
like that.
What about cells in brain?
No,
I
those get
believe they don't
no,
regenerate a lot.
those don't last a lifetime. They get remodeled. They get born again. They do all kinds of things. Although sometimes I feel like I've got ancient cells in my brain, frankly. Ha ha. I mean, it is possible. I have never studied it. I don't know that anybody has, and I mean, people may have, but I'm not up to date on the latest information on how often brain cells regenerate. But they do in the certainly in the hippocampus.
Yeah, I was thinking, and I think in
Which
teenage
is where the
years,
memory is.
those develop a lot, I believe.
I'm sorry, what?
I believe in teenage years, the brain develops a lot, right? But I knew I
Hopefully,
had sense of feeling before that. So it's
yes.
not necessarily like
Okay, so in
things would have
teenagers,
dropped off.
what develops is the frontal cortex here. This part
Yeah.
develops more, and this part is what inhibits the impulses from the amygdala and etc. from the rest of the organism. So as you mature, you get less impulsive. That's why, you have to wait to a certain age to drive. You should have to wait at a certain age to vote, but hey, it's not a perfect world. So let's get back to this thing. So you're saying, well, you had 2 points. One was special relativity. Let's get back to the other. Do you have another point, or are we still stuck on this? You think that you're special and that you're separate from the universe somehow?
I, s- yeah, let's dive deeper onto that because I don't know where to move from this.
From what?
I know from the feeling that I am separate from the world, even though I can't conclusively prove that where do I exist in the body,
You
yet,
you have that feeling. That's very true, and most people do have that feeling. And that feeling is adaptive in a certain way because the thing that you're charged with and linked to in some magical way for the time being needs to eat. It needs to sleep. It needs to be protected from the cold or from too much thirst, right? But that's
yeah.
different. That's like having a body as opposed to being a body.
So why am I responsible for my body at all? Why is awareness responsible for it?
Why? Well, it's here for such a short time. It appears like that's just part of the deal that we pretend that we're animals or we get stuck to an animal. Maybe we did something wrong and we got sent down here as animals. I don't know. I don't know. But the
That,
same thing is, you
yeah,
could
I guess
also
that
ask
could
the same
be.
thing about why is this universe here? Whys are big questions. And we could speculate. We could say that God wants this or she wants that or something like that. But we're not in the business of speculation here. I don't think anyone knows that. I don't think that's knowable by the human brain or mind. I think it's beyond our capacity to understand that, except to say that the answer to the question, is this universe here? I mean, is this universe here? But ask the question in a different way. Maybe we can get further.
Hmm. Simply asking, who am I?
Okay.
Keep arriving at this.
Who?
I keep arriving at these scenes.
How about what are you? Does that help?
What are you?
Just like it. Look at it phenomenologically. What are you?
What
Okay,
am
let
I?
me
I
start
certainly
you.
can't
You
be
are
my
sense
name.
organs embedded in a meat packet. All right? You have eyes, you have ears, you have taste, you can detect temperature, so on and so forth. So we know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else?
I do have senses.
What else are you?
It's like someone looking through my eyes, or like being able to sense all these things.
Very good,
Like there
very
is a
good.
central point that,
Very good. So let's take a
like,
thermostat.
yeah,
Are you like a thermostat?
I'm not like a thermostat, but I can feel the thermostat. And by feel, I mean I can feel hot, cold.
So you have qualia.
Yeah.
Why don't you define qualia for the audience?
Qualia is a philosophical and psychological term that refers to individual instances of subjective conscious experience.
Okay,
Yeah,
subjective
that's
conscious experience. Do you have subjective conscious experience?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Do you
So
think that
it's
a
like, how should I
thermostat, do you
say?
think that a thermostat has subjective conscious experience?
That as a separate entity, I don't think so.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have a memory for one thing. All right?
Yeah,
So
it's like I
subjective
have
conscious
apparatus.
experience. Just think about that. You are subjective conscious experience. And you're experiencing yourself in
Yes,
a meat body with only, 6 or 7 organs of sensation. And that's all you got.
it's like it. I like it's like I can deep dive into how my eye works, how hearing works. Yet there must be some endpoint where someone or something is aware of hearing. Like I can
Correct,
keep
correct.
talking
A,
about a
a,
lot
a
of
Tesla can
how I works,
see.
but
A Tesla can see. You know the car?
yeah,
It can see.
yeah.
But does it have subjective awareness? What did it say? Subjective what awareness?
Qualia,
Yeah.
the subjective awareness and conscious experience.
Subjective awareness and conscious experience. And experience. Okay. So now
It's
let's do this. Now, are you a leg or do you have a leg?
I have a leg.
Okay. Are you a head or do you have a head?
I have a head.
Okay. Are you a heart or do you have a heart?
I have a heart because you can do heart transplants.
Are you subjective awareness and conscious experience? Or are you conscious experience or do you have conscious experience? That's the question.
I am conscious experience
Okay, well, good. Then you answered
because
your question.
I can't.
You answered your question. Who am I? Or what am I?
But but I still don't know where it's located yet.
There's no locations in this universe. That's all illusory. Where's the universe located? Where is planet Earth located? Let's work it out. Where is it?
In solar
In
system,
this solar
but
system.
I
And where is
don't
this
have
solar
any
system?
origin.
Where is this solar system located?
In Milky Way galaxy,
All right. And
but
where's the Milky Way
again, where is
galaxy?
Milky Way? Like,
It's in a universe with no center and no perimeter. We're not given that.
yeah.
right? There's no absolute. Well, you just studied special relativity. There's no absolute location in the universe. Everything is relative to something else. And the same thing with time. So both space and time are relative. They're not absolute. They emerge from the mind, from some minds, right?
I think I've.
So why do you need to know where subjective awareness and conscious experience are located? Why do you need to know where they are?
I guess I have been conditioned to know.
Yes, you've been
if
conditioned to
I
know
want
that.
to search for something.
But now think like a scientist, or
want-
think like a philosopher, or think like a Dharma student. You don't need to know where subjective awareness and conscious experience are located. But let's keep going. What other questions do you have?
I had this other question. I think
Okay, but
I was listening to one of your.
good. I want to go there, but I want you to underline this. You just told me that you are subjective awareness. That you are conscious experience. You have legs, you have arms, you have eyes, you have ears, you have thoughts, but you are these other things. Okay, I just want you to highlight that. Okay, now let's go to your next question. Good. Yay!
Another question.
Yay! Good.
Uh,
Oops. That's the right one. Sorry.
I think in one of your previous videos, where you and the student were discussing about space and time,
Okay.
and I think student asked about how it would take 1 hour to travel to some place, even though in dream it wouldn't take any time at all.
Right.
I agree with him in the sense that there exists a world where things are consistent. Day after day, I know it will take an hour for me to get to work.
Okay.
Like, why though?
At a certain
why
speed.
Does one? Sorry.
At a certain speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
At a certain speed. Yeah. So my question is like, even though there exist various worlds, like especially when you are dreaming, things are different. Why do there exist a world where things are consistent, yet we say that it's an illusion?
Okay. So now we get to the question of how is this marvelous world implemented? Even though we know it's illusory, how does it manage to seem to have certain rules?
Yeah.
What are those rules? Give me some.
Lots of one, the speed of light is always constant across different frames of reference.
I know that's as close to a rule as we have, but now that I was reading something recently that there may be speeds faster than that, and certainly we have entanglement, which occurs across vast. Okay, can you tell me what entanglement is before we discuss this?
No.
All right, so look up. Ask the AI. Say, give me a simple example of entanglement in physics. This is where Einstein freaked out. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess that's Young's double slit experiment.
No, well, that's not really the double slit. It's a little bit beyond that. But it's a basic foundational understanding that you must have. And so the relativity, special relativity, that's early 20th century. We're well into the 21st, right? And we got to get quantum mechanics. We can't be using physics that's so outdated we can't use it. But keep going. What does it say?
The double slit experiment with entangled photons.
All right.
Here's a brief discussion. A laser beam is split to create pairs of entangled photons.
Okay.
One photon from each pair is sent through a double slit apparatus.
All right.
The other photon, the idler, is sent directly to a detector. Okay. The experiment. When the idler photon is detected, it provides which path information about its entangled partner. This information affects the interference pattern of the photon going through the slits.
Okay, so yeah, this one's proving it, right? But let me okay, so let's see.
So results.
Here, let me show you an easier version of it. Okay, we have here, on this end, there's an entangled particle, which is shiny. On this end, we have a entangled particle, which is dull. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, regardless of how far apart these two, I mean, I'm imagining, we have to imagine particles, shiny and dull, which is like spin, right? Up or down.
Yeah.
So if shiny is facing you, then dull must be facing me. If dull is facing you,
Yes.
then shiny must be facing me. They're entangled. They're part of the same thing. They're part of the world. Oh boy, let's see. They're part of they're entangled. They're
And like it's when you toss a coin, if I get a head, then the down should be the tails.
okay, that's there. Yes. But the difference is that the coin can be the size of the galaxy. I mean, the two particles could be that far apart, but it's actually more basic than that. And oh boy, how we got? So this is where that YouTube could help you. But entanglement means that two things are connected in such a way that you can't affect one without affecting the other. It's basic Buddhism, frankly, but you can't affect one without affecting the other.
Yeah, that is something that I totally agree with.
Okay,
Like
good. Now let's go back to your point.
My point about how things are consistent
Yes,
in this world.
right. The dream world is
It's
just a
cons-
metaphor. It's an analogy. It's a simile. It's a rough. It's simply to demonstrate that the mind is capable of creating space and time. Because you go to sleep, you close your eyes, and you dream a world, and there's space and time and other people. So that's just to demonstrate that the brain is quite capable of doing that. Okay? No further claims are
another
made
question
than
arises.
that. It's just made. It's just used as an example of how the brain can do that. I mean, some people come to me and they say, "Well, the brain can't create space. The brain can't create time, right?" But it does both in a dream. When it's dreaming, and it does the same thing when you're awake. But as you point out, there are rules here. There appear to be rules. And so the rule that you gave me the example was the speed of light. All right, well, let's go with it. All right, let's say the speed of light is fixed and nothing can go faster. All right, give me another rule.
I can't give you another strong rules. I would say conservation of energy.
Okay, but another way to look at energy, tell me the difference between energy and information. You have a quantity of energy and you have what's the difference between a quantity of energy and a quantity of information?
With energy, work can be done. With quantity of information, it's like inference, I would say, where a physical thing gets converted into thought.
I'm speaking no more of qubits, but okay, so work can be done, but what is work but the transfer of information?
I mean, if we go by that, then everything's
Exactly.
transfer of
So
information.
this is a little bit radical. This is newer, but basically the notion is that information theory can inform physics, because what physics really is descriptions of the transfer of something. We can call it information, we can call it energy, but as you increase the energy, you increase the information because of the kinetics and because of everything, right? So it's a new way of looking at physics, because physics has hit a wall, right? I mean, what is energy really? You can't tell me.
Honestly, I can't.
And
I can
ultimately,
show
we
its
can't say what
effects.
qubits are either. And this is the problem with the limits of the argument made against strict idealism is that even if all this is a dream world, an illusory world, a empty world, a world empty of inherent existence, there still must be something to implement it, right? And so what they're proposing is qubits and spins and the language of quantum mechanics and information.
That's the thing. These things, as such, I can't experience them. It's like when someone asks me, how do I experience time? I can't. It's just, I know through memory that things changed. I can't
Because you
experience
created
things.
it, that's how you can experience it. But okay, we're not going to be able to answer these foundational questions about how something is implemented, because there's going to be I suspect we're going to get to the same problem that when you talk about qubits, there's really nothing there, right? But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Your question has to do with why do dreams have some logic sometimes and rules, but it's not like this world where the rules appear to be fixed, okay? And I agree with you. The dreams are simply used to demonstrate the fact that the human brain, this guy right here, can create space and time and other people. Okay, so now, if you are indeed subjective awareness and conscious experience, what are the limits on you? Or how do you
Limits. I
distinguish
think I
yourself
can't
from the
do it.
rest of the universe?
I can just observe things. I am aware of things.
But there's no things out there. There are
Senses.
things, but they
The
don't
modulation.
have inherent existence.
Yeah, it's inference through senses, interpreting senses and arriving at that
And creating things like
there is some substance.
rainbows or mirages. Your
Yeah.
senses create those things, right?
I would say senses don't create those things. Senses sense things as it is.
Oh,
Thoughts
so a
on top
rainbow
of
is
them
as
creates those
things
things.
is. You don't think your senses create a
When
rainbow?
I think, okay, if you consider thought as a sense, then yes. But if
Well,
you remove thought from
do your
senses,
senses create tables and chairs?
no, they don't. They
Well, let's
just
say
convey whatever
a
is being
beaver
seen.
sees a table and a chair. What does the beaver see? Does he see a table and a chair?
No, nothing. It just sees random pieces of wood.
Is there an inherent table and chair that actually exists? Or is that something that you add to the arrangement of the wood and say, oh, for me, this is a table and a chair. For a beaver, this is
Yeah,
like a
I
nice
add it.
snack. What?
Yeah, I do add it, and it's through thought. Thought
Good.
essentially
So you
says
have created something in the world with just your thought.
yes, the
Beautiful,
objects.
beautiful. So your subjective awareness that can create things out of thought.
I wouldn't say create things. It would be just objects in thought form itself, and
Okay, you take the raw sensory data and you form it into something coherent, an object in your mind. Is that fair?
yes, yes,
Okay.
that's fair.
Well, think of that power you've got.
Yeah, and I don't know that that may be the reason why I suffer, but I don't know
Well, the
because
reason that you
these things are
suffer
still
is because
required.
you create thought patterns that create suffering as opposed to thought patterns that alleviate suffering. And by isolating yourself from the universe and saying that you're not part of it, although I can demonstrate that every part of you has the history of the universe behind it. If we're going to describe history of the universe, what part of it is not part of you? In some way removed, in some sense removed. I mean, in some extent removed. How can you isolate yourself from the universe? How can you do that?
I cannot. That's the thing. Like theoretically, I understand this.
But every
Yet
time you
I
suffer,
don't know
that's
it for a
exactly what
fact.
you do. Every time you suffer mentally, that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I think there is some one unexplored belief that I still believe it, or I overlook it as a belief.
What?
I have assumed it as a truth. I don't know. It's
Your separateness as an individual. You don't, rather than say, I'm subjective awareness and conscious experience, you say, I am a frail body that suffers slings and arrows, and something bad's going to happen to this body that is me, and I'm going to die.
yeah,
But we've already established that you're not your arms or your legs or your neck or your feet. We could get rid of any of those and you're still here. I heard an interesting experiment. If I offered you, I said, hey, listen, uh, you have a body and you have a subjective awareness and conscious experience or whatever that thing is, right? You gotta,
yeah.
one of them's gotta go. Which one would you choose to get rid of?
Body, but
Of
can I even
course.
get rid of the other thing?
No, you can. It's just an experiment. It's just a thought experiment. Kind of a funny one. Yeah, everybody chooses my mind, right? My mind. And so, with the Avatamsaka, have you been reading the Avatamsaka? See, the reason for this book, again, it's this is like a science book in a way, but for the 21st century because it includes what you discovered about relativity, right? They knew that in the second century. And more about and so this book is there to just prepare your mind and expand your mind. Otherwise, you're going to have to go through and do it the hard way. Start studying quantum mechanics. Start studying, hardcore science and philosophy and everything else. You get to the same place. That all that exists is consciousness, and consciousness and love are the same thing. It's called the mind-only school. And it's been around for a long, long time, and it's been written up. So, but our minds can't grok it. Are you reading anything in here?
Yeah, we can read.
Yeah. Would you? What page are you
But I
on?
don't. I am on, I think, 221.
Okay. Why don't you read it a little bit for the folks?
Yes. This one's from
Why don't you
Book
start
of Love.
read the last paragraph, the last 3 lines of 221, and then read 222 just for fun. It'll be fun. Slowly and
Okay.
carefully.
Above
Okay,
this,
just a second. Let me introduce it.
past
This is the
has-
Flower Bank World,
Yeah.
Avatamsaka Sutra, Flower Ornament Sutra, magnificent text, translated in the 7th century at the bequest of the Emperor of China. God bless her. And then into English in the last century, middle of the last century. And it's an incredible treasure. Okay, go ahead. Boom.
Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called sublime sound. The Buddha there is called wonderfully high jewel lamp. Above this, past as many as worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called light of arrays of myriad jewels. The Buddha there is called banner of sounds of the cosmos. Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called diamond treasury of fragrance. The Buddha there is called sound of light. Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called pure sound. The Buddha there is called supreme energy. Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called array of jewel lotus blossoms. The Buddha there is called thunder of clouds of castles of truth. Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called peace and bliss. The Buddha there is called renowned lamp of wisdom. Uh, Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called undefiled net. The Buddha there is called ocean of virtues with invincible light. Should I continue?
Yeah, I'll do two more.
Okay. Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called flowering grove, banner illumining everywhere. The Buddha there is called light of the lotus of great knowledge. Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called innumerable adornments. The Buddha there is called banner of the real sphere of the universal eye.
Above this, past as many worlds as atoms in a Buddha field, is a world called array of jewels of radiant light. The Buddha there is called great caravan leader of supreme knowledge. Thank you very much. Now, one of the best ways to do this, if it can be arranged, is to read it with somebody else, and you take turns reading, or you read at the same time, or you know, there's a thousand different, not a thousand, there's a lot of different ways to read this, in groups, in pairs, alone. Out loud is best, put silently, so on and so forth. And I really do recommend it highly, because reality, scientific reality, is getting hard to accept, right? These women and men understood that, and they prepare your mind to understand these things. Good. Thank you.
Yes.
Another few questions before we stop. One or two.
Yeah, so one thing that I was thinking about is control. So, one thing that I know is for a control to exist, I must have some options, and I should be able to choose options in an unbiased manner, I guess. But the thing is, there doesn't exist any such scenario like that. Like, the only
Correct.
thing that I do is I take some decision, and then something happens because of that decision. But my mind
You think it's because of that
shows,
decision, but it could have been
yeah,
something else.
but it's,
Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, that's what it does. It backtracks and says and reasons out why I took that decision and why things happened. But it happened, and I did not have any control over it.
That's called
Like, it reasons
determinism.
out why certain.
That's called determinism, right? And determinism holds, I mean, if you look at the light cones of Einstein, determinism holds until you get to quantum mechanics. And then even the universe can't predict what's going to happen next. Something like that. I don't know.
Okay. But I don't know. I just want to control everything. That's what I observed. Like, I know that I rehearse my order for every McDonald's meal or anything. I rehearse situations that I predict will happen, or like I just want to control everything. Yet,
Subjective awareness, or your mind, your conditioned
the
thought
mind,
patterns. The
I would
mind,
say,
yeah. But subjective awareness and conscious experience, like the Taoists say, they just are with what is, and not doing is the rule, right? So you think that you're controlling, but are you really?
I don't think so. I
Well,
don't think
ask
so.
yourself if subjective awareness and conscious experience, which is what you said you are, right,
Yeah.
cares about controlling.
Because that can, like, only with control, I can increase or improve the favorable outcomes. At least that's what I think.
That's what you think. But
Yeah. And
if you live a life like I have, you'll learn that certain things occur that you had no idea where they came from or what they were for, or how things could turn out so differently in certain ways than you could have possibly imagined. And that's what allows this universe to be as marvelous as it is. It's not fixed. It's still flowering. It's still, and this is one world. There's, you know how many worlds there are? There's as many worlds as there are grains of sand in a Buddha field. And these worlds are worlds that are in your domain if you loosen up those boundaries around you. So you say I, and half the time you mean your ego, or most of the time you mean your ego,
yeah.
not you,
Yeah.
your idea of you. And so it's as if I said, okay, this is me, and this is you, and we tried to control these two things, right? But they aren't us in the first place. It's a false assumption to begin with. This is not me, and this is not you. So if you start with a faulty assumption, you're going to end up in a squirrely place.
Yeah, but I think realizing that itself is awakening, right?
Well, you don't have to awaken to see the obvious. I mean, what is awakening is simply understanding once and finally who and what you are. But you can prepare yourself to awaken, and awakening favors a prepared woman or man. And so that's why this enterprise. But in the meanwhile, you might as well just learn this world that you find yourself in. What the hell? How did you end up here? Did you ask to be born?
No.
Did you ask to have your body or your circumstance or anything like that? No, so we can be very, very grateful, but at the same time, we have to scratch our heads and go, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? Why is this universe here? Why are we in this world? Well, first of all, why is this world here? But also, why are we in this world instead of another world? And how many worlds are there? And what are worlds made of? What are universes made of? And the answer is getting more and more mystical the further science goes. Because right now, they're at basically quantum mechanics and information theory. Which is really, you couldn't ask for a more beautiful world than that. And a more extraordinary time to be alive. But going back to your second question about the dreams, remember, that's just to illustrate that your brain is quite capable of creating a world. It does it every night. Okay, next.
Next question
I get excited. It's so much.
I feel like
such good stuff.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes. So it's like, I don't know whether this is a belief or not, but I think to awaken, I need to surrender this control. And
who needs to surrender the control?
Ego, in this case.
That's like saying one of these guys needs to surrender control. They never had control in the first place. Right? These imaginary selves here, they never had control in the first place. You imagine, and the way to let go of the need to control is to understand who and what you actually are. And then you end up with these guys, the ancient Taoists, who understood how we're part of the whole thing. We can't separate ourselves from it.
Okay. So I think I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to say is I need to understand, know for a fact that these are illusory self. Then I don't need to surrender to anything because everything's smooth then.
We're talking about three levels at once. Surrender is a loaded word, right? Because it sounds like you're giving something up.
Yeah, I, I am giving up my illusion in a sense, I would say.
Or you could just you don't even have to give it up. You just let it dissolve. It'll go. That's what this book is about. Then you don't have to give up any illusion. You just understand. It's like if you had been taught as a child that babies come from storks. You know, storks, the bird.
Yeah.
They come and they bring the baby in a little cloth bag. You don't have to give that up. You just have to learn how it actually works. So surrender would be the wrong word. I mean, you didn't surrender the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or whatever, you know. And so, and the thing is, then you can start to look at these things may have other uses or other, it's like religious doctrines may have another use different than trying to get people as close as they can to absolute truth. Maybe they're just trying to get people to behave with one another, right? Or maybe they're doing the opposite. They're trying to get people to fight. But anyway, you can't see any of those things clearly until you let your attachment to those dissolve. And this is what the Buddhists mean by let go of attachment. Attachment to concepts, attachment to thought patterns, attachment to things that you believe that are no longer useful. Right?
Wait a minute. So
and
you
not
said
true.
Attachment. So you are saying it's okay that these thoughts come up. It's just that I should not be attached to those.
Absolutely, yeah. It's perfectly fine that the thoughts come up. All kinds of thoughts can come up. Don't go to war with those. Don't fight fire with fire. Don't wash blood with blood. Don't fight thought with more thought. And you don't have to worry about any thought coming up. All kinds of horrible thoughts and beautiful thoughts will come up. Don't be attached to them. Let them just go. It's like clouds in the sky.
And you attach to them through desire and fear.
Yes. Very good insight. Fear and desire are what attach us to thoughts or concepts or false beliefs or to misidentifications. We're going to have to stop. So one more question before we do that?
I know that.
Okay, sir. Hasta luego. Keep at it. I know this book is difficult, right? The Avatamsaka. But the rewards are immeasurable. And what it does is it helps you just dissolve the attachment that the mind has to these outdated notions of self and other and the world and the worlds. Okay, sir?
Yes.
Vaya con Dios. Adios.